Hi, I'm Wade Millward, and today I'm catching up with CRN senior editor Dylan Martin on CRN In Depth, where we cover a big story happening now with a reporter who covered the news. Dylan, we're talking about the post-Pat Gelsinger era at Intel. What are you hearing from partners at this point?
I did talk to two partners, either who liked Gelsinger and his strategy or thought that at the very least the board was not right in reportedly forcing Gelsinger out. One partner did talk about how, quote, Pat did a lot of things to get a very big ship sort of pointed in the right direction. That I think, that kind of speaks to the fact that, before Pat returned to Intel more than 3 years ago, Intel was definitely struggling from a chip manufacturing capability. They were falling behind on their 10 and 7 nanometer technologies, and then Pat came with this plan to introduce 5 advanced chip manufacturing nodes in 4 years. Now they are apparently on track with the 5th node, which is called Intel 18A, and that's supposed to be the technology that puts Intel ahead of Asian foundry giants TSMC and Samsung. This partner I spoke to also said, I don't think there's a U.S. CHIPS Act without Pat Gelsinger. I don't think there's a focus on U.S. semiconductor manufacturing without him. I do think that speaks to how, Pat, with this plan on expanding and improving Intel's manufacturing efforts, he really pleaded to U.S. policymakers to consider investing in the semiconductor industry domestically, so that it can, grow a lot more. And there were no signs that Pat was going to leave the company anytime soon. So, channel partners were definitely surprised to hear that he was leaving so abruptly and with no clear succession plan. The board said that they are now looking for new candidates. They have 2 interim co-CEOs. And yeah, there's surprise, but also concern about what this means for Intel's strategy. Intel had been leaning a lot into expanding its chip manufacturing capabilities over the last 3 years under Gelsinger, and doing that to, one, improve Intel's own products, aka CPUs and the like, but also so that Intel could go to outside companies and say, hey, you're designing chips, do you want us to manufacture them for you? And those kinds of companies include Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure. Those 2 companies actually have announced that they will be manufacturing, that Intel will be manufacturing chips they're designing, so AWS and Azure. And so, Pat had this big plan about, expanding its manufacturing capabilities, and it required a lot of money being spent, but Intel was also losing money at the same time due to competition for its CPUs, but also, we're just kind of the PC market and the server market were kind of cooling down after all the post-pandemic, all the spending that was happening during the pandemic. And so, I think channel partners kind of want to know what direction Intel is going in. And, I think there may be a little bit of optimism too about, if this is going to help Intel further improve its products, then we see this as a good thing because Intel's channel partners ultimately are selling, systems with Intel processors inside. But yeah, so there's a mix of, I would say, concern and a little bit of optimism and surprise from channel partners.
It sounds like we don't necessarily know yet. Is the long-term strategy going to change? Are we going to see Intel separate into 2 different companies? It sounds like there's a lot on the table.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of questions about what direction Intel will take in the future. Intel is under a lot of pressure from Wall Street to figure out something that will, move their financials in the right direction. The problem is that it's such a capital-intensive company that there are no easy answers. And, like we said, you're not necessarily going to find the right answer or a satisfying answer in another 3 months when the next earnings call happens. It's a lot going on for this company.
And that'll do it for this episode of In Depth. Dylan, thank you so much for joining me. And to read more about semiconductors and the channel, be sure to read crn.com.